Hello everyone, myself Dr. Vibhash Vaidya, and today in this video we'll discuss about the osteology of 2nd and 7th cervical vertebra. So let's see first the 2nd cervical vertebra. You can see this is the 2nd cervical vertebra, and this 2nd cervical vertebra is also called as axis because it is identified by this process, and this process is called dense or odontoid process of the 2nd cervical vertebra. You can observe here this odontoid process is tooth-like projection which projecting upward from the body. Here this is the body of the 2nd cervical vertebra, and this dense usually believed to represent the centrum of the body of the atlas which has fused with the centrum of the axis. Now the body and dense of the 2nd cervical vertebra. Here this is the body and dense of the 2nd cervical vertebra. You can see here this is the superior surface of the body, and this superior surface of the body which fuse with this dense. Along with this you can see here articular facets on the each side of the body, and this articular facet is called superior articular facets. You can observe here the anterior part of the odontoid process via a oval shaped articular facets, and this oval shaped articular facets which articulate with the posterior surface of the anterior arch of the atlas, and posteriorly the transverse ligament of the atlas is passes. Then the inferior surface of the body. You can see here this is the inferior surface of the body. Here you can observe the anterior margin of the inferior surface is prominent anteriorly and downward. Now the anterior surface of the body, you can see here this is the anterior surface of the body, and on the each side of the anterior surface of the body mark a median ridge, and in between this median ridge you can see here a hollowed out depression. Then the vertebral arch. Here this is the vertebral arch, and first we'll see the pedicles. You can see here this is the pedicles of the 2nd cervical vertebra or axis. The pedicle are concealed with the superior articular process. You can see here this pedicle which concealed with the superior articular process, and the inferior surface of the pedicle present a deep or wide notch, and this notch is called inferior vertebral notch. On the each side you can see here this is the inferior vertebral notch, and it is placed in front of the inferior articular process. You can see here this inferior vertebral notch which placed just front to this inferior articular process. The superior vertebral notch, you can see here this is the superior vertebral notch on the superior surface, and this superior vertebral notch is very shallow, and it is placed on the upper border of the lamina behind the superior articular process. You can see this superior articular notch which present just behind to this superior articular process. Then the lamina. You can see here this is the lamina of the 2nd cervical vertebra, and this lamina are thick and strong. Now the articular facets. You can see here this is the superior articular facets, and here this is the inferior articular facets. The superior articular facets occupy the upper surface of the body and of the massive pedicle, and you can observe here on the lateral to this facets here a overhang foramen is present, and this foramen is called foramen transversarium. On the each side you can observe just laterally a overhang foramen is present. This foramen is called foramen transversarium, and this superior articular facets is large, flat, circular facet which is directed upward and laterally. It is directed somewhat upward and laterally. It articulates with the inferior facet of the atlas vertebra to form the antlanto-occipital joint. Each inferior articular facet, you can observe here this is the inferior articular facets, and this inferior articular facets lies posterior to the transfer process. Here this is the transfer process, and just posterior to the transfer process this inferior articular facet is lies and is directed downward and forward, and it articulates with the third cervical vertebra. Then the transverse process. You can see here, this is the transverse process. And this transverse process are very small and represent the true posterior tubercle only. Here you can see this is the true posterior tubercle. The foramen transversarium. Here this is the foramen transversarium. It is directed upward and laterally. Now the spine. You can see here, this is the spine of the second cervical vertebra. It is large, thick and very strong. It is deeply grooved inferiorly. You can observe here, this spine is deeply grooved on the inferiorly. And the tip of the spine, this is the tip of the spine. It is bifid and terminating into two rough tubercle. Over here you can observe here two rough tubercle on the tip of the second cervical vertebra. So this is all about the bony feature. Now we'll discuss about the attachment of the second cervical vertebra. First we'll see the attachment over this odontoid process. This apex of the odontoid process which provide attachment to the apical ligament. And on each side of the apex, here we have an attachment of the alar ligament. Then the anterior surface of the body. Here this is the anterior surface of the body, and this anterior surface of the body receive the insertion of the longus colli muscle. Over here we have a insertion of the longus colli muscle and anterior longitudinal ligament on the midline. Here we have a attachment of the anterior longitudinal ligament. Then the posterior surface. This is the posterior surface of the body, and this posterior surface of the body provide attachment from below to upward. First the posterior longitudinal ligament hold the length. Here the covering of the posterior longitudinal ligament. Then membrana tectoria and the vertical ligament of the cruciate ligaments. Then you can see here, this is the lamina of the second cervical vertebra, and this lamina provide the attachment of the ligamentum flava. Here we have attachment of the ligamentum flava. Then the transfer process, you can see here, this is the transfer process of the second cervical vertebra, and this transfer process provide attachment to, over this tip of the transfer process we have attachment of the levator scapulae, and just anterior to the tip of the transfer process over here we have attachment of the scalenus medius muscle, and posteriorly this margin, here we have attachment of the splenius cervicis muscle. Then on the spinous process, here we have attachment of the ligamentum nuchae, then the semispinalis cervicis, rectus capitis posterior major, and the inferior oblique and the spinalis cervicis muscle. These are the muscle which attach over this spinous process of the second cervical vertebra. So this is all about the second cervical vertebra. Now we'll discuss about the seventh cervical vertebra. You can see this is the seventh cervical vertebra, and this seventh cervical vertebra is also known as vertebra prominens because of its long spinous process. Here you can observe the seventh cervical vertebra has a long spinous process. The tip of this spinous process, which can be felt through the skin at the lower end of the nuchal furrow. Its spine is thick, long and nearly horizontal. You can observe the spine of the seventh cervical vertebra is thick, long and nearly horizontal. It is not bifid. You can observe the seventh cervical spinous process is not bifid but ends in a tubercle. Over here you can observe a tubercle. The transfer process, you can see here, this is the transfer process of the seventh cervical vertebra, and this transfer process are comparatively large in the size. You can see the transfer process is large in size. The posterior root, here this is the posterior root of the transfer process, and this posterior root is large than the anterior root. This is the anterior root of the transfer process, and this one is a posterior root. When you compare these two roots, the posterior root is larger than the anterior root. Then the anterior tubercle is absent. Here, this is over here, you can the absence of the anterior tubercle in the typical cervical vertebra. Here you can observe a anterior tubercle, but in case of this 7th cervical vertebra, there is anterior tubercle is absence, and the foramen transversarium, this is the foramen transversarium, and this foramen transversarium is relatively small, sometimes is double. You can observe on the left side the foramen transversarium is small, but in case of the right side, here we have a double foramen transversarium. That's why this foramen size is large as compared in the left foramen transversarium size. Along with this, sometimes the 7th cervical vertebra has a absence of the foramen transversarium. The 7th cervical foramen transversarium does not transmit the vertebral artery. Now the attachment. The tip of the spinous process, this tip of the spinous process which provide attachment to the ligamentum nuchae, trapezius muscle, rhomboid minor muscle, serratus posterior, superior, splenius capitis, semispinalis thoracis, interspinals and the multifidus. These are the muscle which attach over this tip of the 7th cervical vertebra. Then the transfer process over here, the foramen transversarium usually transmit only the accessory vertebral vein. Here, this foramen which only transmit the accessory vertebral vein, the posterior tubercle, this posterior tubercle which provide attachment to the suprapleural membrane, and the lower border provide attachment to the libitor costrum. So this is all about the 2nd and 7th cervical vertebra. Now we'll discuss about some clinical importance of cervical vertebrae. The costal element of the 7th cervical vertebra may be get enlarged to form a cervical rib. Then the cervical rib is a additional rib which arising from the 7th cervical vertebra and usually get attached to the first rib near the insertion of the scalenus anterior. If the rib is more than 5 cm long, it is usually displaces the brachial plexus and the subclavian artery upward, and this cause the symptoms are tingling pain along the inner border of the forearm and the hand, including weakness and even paralysis of the muscle of the palm. Then the intervertebral foramen of the cervical vertebra lies anterior to the joint between the articular process. Arthritic change in these joints, if occur, cause teeny projections or osteophytes. These osteophytes may press on the anteriorly placed cervical spinal nerve in the foramina, causing pain along the course and distribution of the nerve. Then the joint of the lateral part of the adjacent body of the cervical vertebra are called Luskas joint. The osteophytes commonly occur in this joint. The cervical nerve roots lying posterolateral to this joint may get pressed, causing pain along their distribution. The vertebral artery crossing through the foramen transversarium lies lateral to these joints. Osteophytes of Luskas joint may cause distortion of the vertebral artery, leading to the vertebrovascular insufficiency. This may cause vertigo, dizziness, etc. Then the prolapse of the intervertebral disc occur at the junction of the different curvature, and it is common side its lower cervical and upper lumbar vertebra region. In the cervical region, the disc involved in above or below the 6th cervical vertebra. The nerve root affect are C6 and C7. There is pain and numbness along the lateral side of the forearm and hand. These may be wasting of the muscle of the thenar eminence. Then during judicial hanging, the odontoid process usually break to hit upon the vital center in the medulla oblongata. Atlas may fuse with the occipital bone. This is called occipitalization of the atlas, and this may at times compress the spinal cord, which require Surgical decompression. Then the hangman's fractures occur due to the fracture of the pedicle of the atlas vertebra. As the vertebral canal gets enlarged, the spinal cord does not get passed. So this is all about the 2nd and 7th cervical vertebrae. I hope all of you understood the topic. Thank you for watching.